Well, if you're a gun owner in Laramie or Platte County, you have a choice to make in the upcoming August 20 Republican Party primary. Senator Bjorklund is retiring from the Senate, and the way it seems half of Wyoming is vying to replace him. But how do we know as gun voters who we can trust? Stay tuned, guys. We're breaking this race down for you right now. Hey guys, Aaron Dorr here with Wyoming Gun Owners. The August primary is coming up very quick. And in Senate District number 6, we're getting a lot of questions about this huge primary between Darren Smith, Taff Love, Eric Johnston, Gary Bjorklund, and Kim Withers. The question you're asking us is very simple. How do we know who we can trust? Everyone campaigns on gun rights every 2 or 4 years, but so often they arrive in Cheyenne and they do nothing to fight for our gun rights. Of course, this area has a strong legacy of being repped by a pro-gun champion. Anthony Bouchard was a leader in the fight for gun rights for 8 years in the Senate. And so for those of you who are asking who's going to pick up that mantle, we're going to break down these candidates and give you guys some information. As you can see, a lot of candidates, a lot of information. I'm going to break it down as concisely as I can. And we're going to begin with Darren Smith. Now, normally we don't discuss endorsements very often in these videos because endorsements, they don't always give you a great view of how a candidate might act. But there's a lot of endorsements in this race you should hear about because there's so many of them. And one of those is Darren Smith, who was personally endorsed by President Trump just a couple of days ago. He is right now the only candidate in the entire state that we know of who's been endorsed by President Trump. And frankly, for a state Senate candidate, just a candidate, not even the incumbent, to get an endorsement from President Trump is such a big deal that you guys had to be aware of that. So number one, Darren Smith endorsed by President Trump. Number two, Darren surveyed 100% pro-gun with WIGO. And what that means is Darren has promised in writing to be a leader in the fight for gun rights by sponsoring pro-gun bills. You know, it's one thing to vote pro-gun when you're told you can do so by party leaders. It's something different to be a leader in that fight by carrying and sponsoring pro-gun bills. Darren has pledged to do that. Particularly, he wants to help us finish the fight to repeal deadly gun-free zones. You guys probably know this. We passed this bill this year, House Bill 125, and of course, Governor Gordon vetoed that bill as a favor to all of the gun control lobbyists who crawl through our state capitol. So Darren agrees. That fight has got to be won. He'll sponsor that bill. He's opposed to red flag gun seizures, opposed to fixed NICS mental health gun control, opposed to waiting periods, opposed to the entire gun control agenda here in Cheyenne. You can check it out for yourself. Darren's survey and all of our surveys are hosted on our website. Go there and see it for yourself. A lot of information there for you guys to consume. And finally, when it comes to endorsements, Darren Smith has a unique set of endorsements besides President Trump that you should know about. Right now, he's endorsed by Senator Bouchard, Senator Dan Larson, Tim French, Bob Ide, Bo Biteman, Tim Salazar, Troy McEwen, and again, Donald J. Trump. So pretty much it's a who's who of all the conservative fighters in the Senate have lined up in support of Darren Smith. You know, when one person endorses him, yeah, okay. When two people endorse, okay. When the entire Senate conservative team endorses a candidate, that speaks volumes. We thought you guys should know that. That's the recap on Darren Smith. And that brings up Taff Love. Now, Taft is surveyed 100% with WIGO, and hey, we're always happy to acknowledge a pro-gun survey from a candidate. There are some questions, frankly, that we have with Taft because when a survey is issued like that, but then other parts of the candidate's situation don't jive, we have to ask ourselves, was the survey legitimate or is it an attempt to just simply pander to gun owners? We don't know. We just don't know. Taft has kind of a very pandering picture, as we call it, on his website. It's the very quintessential hunting photograph with an old shotgun. Frankly, that's kind of a pandering photograph. We're not really sure if he really, what he means by his statements. Because the real concern with him is that he's endorsed by the Greater Cheyenne Chamber of Commerce. Now, that might sound like a compliment. I'm sure that Taff Love thinks that it is. But for gun owners here in Wyoming, we know the opposite is true. The fact is, the Chamber of Commerce has become an enemy to gun owners long ago in Cheyenne. They actively work to sabotage pro-gun bills. In fact, 4 years ago, after the primaries here in Wyoming in 2020, it was the Chamber of Commerce in Cheyenne who filed a complaint against Wyoming gun owners, against us, trying to silence us to prevent us from exposing rhino candidates with videos just like this at election time. That complaint from the Cheyenne Chamber of Commerce kicked off a 3-year federal court battle. We destroyed the opposition in district court. We won again in circuit court. Big victory for WYGO against the state of Wyoming. But it all began because the Chamber of Commerce came after WYGO, and now they're endorsing Taff Love. That's a big red flag for us here at WYGO. That's the recap on Taff Love. Eric Johnston. Eric Johnston has refused to fill out his candidate survey with WYGO. Look, when a candidate won't survey, it almost always means that candidate intends to betray the issue the survey was about, in this case, the Second Amendment. And when they're going to betray your gun rights, they don't want to have that betrayal documented in writing. And so that is our concern right now. It's one of our concerns with Eric. Why won't he survey? What is he trying to hide? Does he support gun rights? Does he support gun control? Will he vote for or against gun bills in Cheyenne? We don't know because he refuses to say. There's no mention of gun rights on his website, nothing on social media. We have no reason to believe that Eric Johnston is actually pro-gun. Just don't know. What we do know is that, getting back to endorsements, Eric Johnston is endorsed by Governor Gordon. Now, again, in some circles, maybe that's a compliment. I'm sure that Eric Johnston thinks that it is. But it's not to us, and it's not to gun owners anywhere in the state of Wyoming, because we know what he did to us last session. He vetoed House Bill 125. This was the bill to repeal deadly gun-free zones. Mark Gordon signed his own candidate survey with WYGO when he first ran for office. He broke his written promise, lied to Wyoming, and vetoed that bill. So to have the same governor who does the bidding of the gun control lobby endorse Eric Johnston is a big concern for us. Usually when a candidate walks like a rhino, talks like a rhino, and acts like a rhino, they're probably a rhino. That's our concern with Eric Johnston. Gary Bjorklund. Gary surveyed with WYGO, happy to acknowledge that. He didn't promise to sponsor pro-gun bills. He said he would vote for pro-gun bills. Again, we're happy to acknowledge the survey, but it is not as strong as what Darren Smith did. There is no mention of gun rights on Gary's social media platforms or on his website. Again, normally when a candidate believes in the Second Amendment, especially in Wyoming, right, in a primary, that's all over their website. There's no mention of gun rights. Maybe he adds it, to the website after this video goes live, but right now there's nothing there. And frankly, we're getting a lot of questions and feedback from members in the community who are asking if Gary is actively campaigning. We don't know the answer to that. Tried to get a hold of him, couldn't get a hold of him. Maybe he's still actively involved in this campaign, but he might not be. That's for you guys to determine. But again, a partial survey from Gary, and we're happy to acknowledge the partial. And that brings up Kim Withers. Kim Withers also has refused to survey with Wyoming gun owners. It's always a bad sign. When a candidate will not survey, it means they intend to ordinarily betray your gun rights in Cheyenne. We're very concerned about that. Just like Taff Love, Kim Withers is endorsed by the Greater Cheyenne Chamber of Commerce. Again, the organization who tried to silence WYGO with a bogus ethics complaint. And what they wanted us to do is they wanted us to reveal all of our donor names to the state of Wyoming as a condition of running videos like this at election time. We told them to get bent. Sued them in federal court. Like I said, we won big. But when we see rhino organizations endorse candidates like Kim Withers, that's a really, really big concern for us. And again, like other candidates, no mention of gun rights at all from Kim Withers on her website, social media platforms, nothing, zero, zilch. And frankly, in Wyoming in a primary, after 4 years at Joe Biden, that's just kind of hard to believe that you could be pro-gun and not even talk about gun rights online. Again, after this video goes live, maybe she puts things on social media. We'll have to wait and see. But right now, same thing, very much smells like a rhino. That's a big concern to us here at WYGO. So guys, the recap is simple. We have a couple candidates who are endorsed by Gordon or who are endorsed by anti-gun lobby organizations. Taff Love is, Eric Johnston is, Kim Withers. They're endorsed by rhinos. Not a good look. Many candidates have refused to complete the WIGO candidate survey. That includes Kim Withers and Eric Johnston. All these things are very troubling. When it comes to Darren Smith, he's endorsed by Donald J. Trump. He's endorsed by outgoing State Senator Anthony Bouchard. He's endorsed by every single conservative senator in the Senate right now today. He is surveyed 100% pro-gun, and he wants to be a fighter for your gun rights in the Wyoming Senate. Guys, that's our recap in this race. Do me a favor, share it on social media, tag your friends in the comment section, make sure everyone has the facts on these candidates. Guys, to get more involved today, go to joinwygo.com.